I'm a probation officer. I was working as a sessional worker in an approved premises, and came on shift that night, was told one of the residents had been recalled. Didn't really expect much. About 10:20, the office door shot open. The other worker that I was on with flew into the office, and somebody with a mask come in with a claw hammer. I recognised immediately who it was. It was the person that had been recalled. He wanted money to get back to where he actually lived. So asked me to go and open the safe, which is what I did, or give him the money, which is what I did. I was a little bit shocked, I think. I mean, at that time, I'd been a probation officer for 17 years, so not something I'd ever experienced, not something any of us ever expected to experience. But I kind of just went straight into work mode. I wanted to carry on doing the tasks at the time that I should have been doing it. The on-call manager that came in were a little bit shocked when I was kind of, oh, I've not done 11 o'clock checks, I need to go and get them done quick. But that's just where I was in work mode. And we taught a lot of resilience kind of techniques. So yeah, that's just where I kind of ended up. I think it was once, I didn't sleep that night, it was a night shift. I stayed at work, police came, took statements. I finished work at 8 o'clock, went to my friend's house, broke down, kind of said, this is what's just happened. Went home, didn't really sleep that night, and woke up about 3 o'clock the next morning. And that's when things started to go through my head a little bit. But I kind of talked myself out of it. What do I need to put in place? I sent an email to our assistance programme to get some trauma-informed psychology in place, contacted Maximus, who's a support working service through Remploy, got a support worker in place, made those things. And then the next day went back to where it happened because I needed to know it was a safe environment, it was a one-off, it wasn't going to happen. So I had all them tools in place. I've always done staff support work roles. So I kind of just put in my own head, if this was somebody else, what would I be telling them to do? So I didn't have any time off work. I was just quite resilient to it. It worked out all right. So he was charged with kidnap, 2 counts of robbery, 2 counts of kidnap, and received a 10-year sentence, which was obviously reduced because he admitted guilt. He pleaded guilty at the very first opportunity. So I was contacted by Remedi. I had a worker called Mark. He was absolutely great. He phoned me up. He didn't have to too much go through the service. 17 years of being in probation, we've worked with Remedi a lot. So I knew kind of what was involved. And I wanted to do it more for the person who was convicted rather than for myself. I wanted them to kind of see the harm that you can do, but also kind of look at how you can move on and what you need to do in the future. Mark was quite strict with me and said I couldn't be a probation officer in Remedi. I had to be a victim. So we'd got agreements in place of when we did that meeting, what I was and wasn't allowed to do. But Mark were brilliant. He came to my house. We had telephone contact. Really kept in touch with me all the way through the process. Picked me up, took me to the prison, was there with me through it all, and afterwards as well. So for me, it was. I also wanted to see the other side of it. So we see quite a lot the one-to-one victim work that Remedi do with people on probation. But I wanted to see the other side so that I could then say to anybody that I supervised, I've been through this process as a victim, and it kind of really works. Or just be able to give a little bit more knowledge of how it can feel for a victim, especially when you've got somebody who is really remorseful for what they've done. I think it's important that they've got that opportunity to be able to tell that person. My person had wrote a letter immediately that he got to prison. He wrote a letter and sent it to the office where he's supervised. He then wrote another letter to the place where the incident happened. So I knew he was remorseful for it, but I just wanted to have that face to face with him. And obviously I'd worked with him, so I'd known him for months, weeks maybe, but I just wanted that opportunity to kind of have like a whole view of what kind of happened. So he said, to one of the first things he said, he obviously apologised, and one of the first things he said is, I just want to say to you, don't ever change what you are as a person, because you're really nice, and I don't want what I did to do that. So I was able to say to him, like, it hasn't changed me, kind of, it was awful. I was able to show him the bigger impact on my colleagues, because he could just see two victims, but actually my colleagues had to go and work in an office that he'd smashed up. The residents had witnessed it, and we had to have meetings with residents and check that they were okay. So I think when he realised the wider impact, there was a resident who'd called the police, who was petrified that this person was going to come back and hurt him for that. So I was able to go back to that person and said, I've had a discussion with him. He's took full responsibility for what he's done. It was good to see that he appeared to be really sincere about what he was saying. He did cry, and it wasn't an in-your-face kind of cry. He really tried his hardest to hide it, which made me see it had an impact. I think it was really good for both of us. I was able to see that actually he was just that person I'd worked with before, not this hammer-wielding individual that had been there that night. I was able to understand his own reasoning as to why he did it, but then kind of, say to him, but where did it get you? What you're stuck here now. You're on a longer sentence than your recall would have been. So yeah, it was good to see that the impact that it had on him as well, and that he wasn't just kind of blasé about it. He said at one bit, I asked him what the people on his wing, did they know what he'd done, and he said they did, and they laughed about it. They thought it was funny, like he'd got one over on probation. And you could see that quite affected him. He was kind of saying that were two women who I've done that too. He did really understand the impact of his behaviour. You could see that he'd really thought about it and not just kind of sat in prison thinking, I don't care what I did. I recommended it anyway, but I was never sure what I was recommending. I just, like I said, for me, Remedi was more one-to-one work that kind of happened. We used to have Remedi doing like a victim awareness course for a few weeks. That's what I knew about Remedi, really. I've been to sort of like awareness raising events where they've shown us people who've gone through the process, who have been convicted, and the impact it's had. You still don't get it. It's still a more one-to-one. But 100%, if I had anybody and they contacted, I would now say to somebody, if I can see that they've got true remorse, would you be interested in doing that? I never quite understood why the perpetrator needed to be the one and not the victim that kind of bought into it. But then for me, it's got to be, I see it now, if they're not buying into it, that's going to cause the victim even more harm. Whereas before I kind of thought, surely it should be the victim that's the one that's saying, I want this. But I kind of see that now. If I'd have gone to that meeting and then you needed just being very much like, well, it is what it is. I did what I did. I would have come away from that a different person. So I am able to have those conversations. Would this be something that you would be interested in if they would take part in it?